Hi everyone, Shellman Buster here in my studio. Today I'll be creating a colorful face mirror with all of these naturally colorful pecten shells and a few others. I hope you'll enjoy. To start, we need a frame base and a lot of shells. First up is the outer edges. Lean the frame against your support, apply a good amount of glue and spread it out. To cover my edges, I've chosen to work with these European cockles. I place them one by one, making sure not to let the shell stick out over the back edge. If they do, it could lead to the frame not hanging flat against the wall. One final check that nothing sticks out, and we're ready for sand. Sanding between the shells is optional, but I think that details matter and it's something that I always like to do. For the inner edges, I've chosen these tiny white cockles. With the first outside edge complete, we continue to the inner edge facing the same orientation. When placing the shells, I once again make sure that they don't stick out in the back. You see this little edge here? That's where the mirror will rest later, so make sure that no shells stick out over it, just like on the outside. Before the glue dries, I apply another layer of sand. Give the glue some time to set, and then repeat for the other three sides. Here's a little montage for you. I clean the sand off the table and save it for another project. Now we're ready to go horizontal, with the front side facing up. Having one of these spinning plates make things a lot easier. And then a few nice to haves. Some water, a pair of tweezers, something to poke the shells around with, a brush, and perhaps a cloth to dry your hands with. Before I start sketching, I mark the middle of the frame for reference. These colorful pecten shells will be this frame's main attraction, so that's where I start my sketching. Depending on how you place your shells, you can create very different expressions on the frame. I encourage you to play around with them until you found something that you like. After playing around with it for a while, I decide that this is not where I want to take this mirror, and I'm gonna start over. This time, I'm going to try a layout more focused on the sides of the mirrors. When I lay out the shells, I make sure to create a nice mixture between colors and sizes and to balance the two sides. Now, that doesn't mean I go for exact similarities between the left and the right, but rather focusing on the balance. Depending on your design, you can choose to elevate some shells by putting other shells underneath. Remember that we're still just sketching, so no glue yet. As you continue to sketch on your layout, take note on how some shells have a spectacular inside too. Like these shiny abalone shells, they will create a nice contrast against the small black shells. Like a painter, I sometimes take a step back to get a better feel of the balance in the frame. Or even use my phone to take a picture and then look at that for reference. Some things are just easier to spot that way. When I started making shell art back in 2018, the scariest part was gluing that first shell on the frame. I think I experienced the same feeling that many writers do before putting down the first word on an empty paper. But don't worry, you got this. I believe in you. When applying glue to the pecten shells, make sure to get it both on the frame and on the neighboring shells. As you work your way around the frame shell by shell, Do your best to hide the glue underneath the shells or apply it where other shells will cover it later in the process. I give the glue some time to set and bring out my shiny abalone shells. Here you see me carefully fitting them along and under the pecten shells. You can also choose to create clusters of the same kind of shells to give them a bigger impact on the frame. I play around with a few different ideas of the corners before I decide to go with these white bubble shells. When the corners are done, it's time for one final inspection, adjust anything as needed, and then let it dry overnight. I start by checking that everything I glued yesterday is still in place. Before you continue to the tiny filler shells, this is a good time to make sure you're filled up on shell glue. There's a refill bottle included in the kit, but you can also get it separately at shellman.se. I put down some glue, spread it out, and then start layering shells on top of it. This will create depth in the frame, and you will see me go over it many times to fill out all the small gaps. The tiny shells have one major purpose: to fill the gaps so that we won't see the base of the frame anywhere, from any angle. Notice the way I work with the glue here. Sometimes a generous amount on which I can pour some shells, and sometimes I put the glue on individual shells to fill smaller holes and gaps. For this step, you see me using a jar to put the glue on and then dip the shells in. I recommend this as an easy way to get glue on all sides of the shells. And just like before, be generous with the glue. It's a time-consuming but meditative process, and it's where your attention to detail really will shine. It's easy to get lost in the details here, so remember to take a step back and look, and don't go overboard. After letting the glue dry overnight, it's time to see if there's any shells that didn't stick. Now all that's left is the final touch. Take a close look around the frame and fill in any gaps revealed by shells that fell off. Okay, now we're close to that wow moment. Let's put the mirror in. Place the frame front side facing down on something soft, like the roll-up towels you see me use here. Before you put the mirror in, make sure there's no sand or shells sticking out on the edge where it will rest. Use the included sealant to mount the mirror and let it dry for at least 20 minutes. With the mirror secured, we can put the backboard on. Here you see me centering it over the mirror and then attaching it with the included screws. For this, you will need a T10 and T20 screwdriver. And then the hanging hardware. Use the pre-drilled holes to attach the hangers using a T20 bit and get your wire out. To tie this down, you first go through the hanger from the front, then you go over, around, and through both the hanger and the loop you just created. Finish off by wrapping the wire around itself. This frame took me a full weekend to complete while filming. If you'd like to make your own, both the kit and the shell glue is available at shellman.se. I can't wait to see what all of you create. Thanks for watching!